welcome to My Voices Have Tourette's, and that's why I moved from LA to Iceland. My name is Dan Zarin. Let's get started here. So today's episode is brought to you by Gamesel Studio, where we are recording, the Secret Cellar, Iceland's first and only comedy club, and Smári's Volcano Sauces, the greatest hot sauces I've ever had in my life. Joining me today are two of my incredible friends. One of them, like me, moved from LA to Iceland, but we'll get to him in a second. Let's welcome our co-host, Þórhallur. Þórhallur.
Hello. I'm just from Iceland. I've always been here.
You're just from Iceland.
Yeah.
You've never lived anywhere else.
No.
You have been to LA.
I've been to LA. You brought me there.
Yeah. We performed there.
We did. It was a lot of fun.
Which we'll also get to in a minute, but we should probably introduce the guest first. Pete, because
this is our 30th show.
It's our 30th show. Yeah,
Woo!
That deserves a clap.
Oh yeah.
And because I was thinking we could just do the Þórhallur Dan show, but then it would be rude.
Yeah.
You know, of Nick to come all the way over here just to not even be in the interview. So joining us is the absolutely incredible. If you go to his IMDb page, you will not see something that almost sounded bad. You won't see something that you do not recognize. He's done so much voice work, and he's done comedy, and he's done acting, and he's a musician. Let's just welcome Nick Jameson.
Yay! Hello! Let's hear it for me.
Yay! How are you, man?
I'm good. So you are going to include me, so I can't take that nap I was going to take.
No,
right? Yeah,
not yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Not quite yet. Although the nap maybe would have worked for your Fringe show last year.
Yeah,
called "Why Am I So Old?"
Yeah, good.
Or "Why Are You So Old?" I made that mistake last year too when I was introducing you.
Yeah, you have an age issue, is what you have. You think you're getting old. Wait, you are.
Well, it's funny because when I introduced you, like you said specifically, you were like, "Oh, so Dan, you can do like an old man voice. So like maybe just introduce me as like an old man to an old man." Yeah. And then I went on and I was like, "Welcome to Why Am I So Old? That's not the one."
They call him Alzheimer's Dan over here. You put on the old voice, he loses his memory and he gets incontinent. We got to change his diapers. Don't do that voice anymore, Daniel. It's bad for you.
Well, and I guess I don't have to entirely ask where the name came from.
The name?
The name of Why Are You So Old?
Yeah, well, it was something. It's either something somebody said to me, or it's almost something somebody said to me that I turned into that after a show. They were like, "Hey, you're really funny, but why are you so old?"
Like it was your choice.
Well, I'm no doctor, but I think it's because I was born before you.
I love those questions because then you sit back, like when someone asked me once, "Why do you have Tourette's?" And I'm just like, how do I even answer that? Like I sat at the doctor's office and I was just like, before you diagnose me, I do have a request. Could I get tics? And he's just like, I wasn't going to give them to you, but since you asked,
just don't sleep in my bed. Tics.
Do you want the one with all the swearing? No, just give me the squeaks. I just want squeaks and so on.
Swearing is such a cliche, you know.
It almost sounds like an old 50s band that never made it off the ground. Like, now introducing Dan and the Squeaks.
Oh my God.
With their opening title, "Squeak You, Mother Squeaker."
Yeah, instead of, beeping bad words out, you just
squeak.
You squeak.
I thought
you could get a job. They could hire you at a TV station.
As the censor bar.
Yeah.
You.
I thought about that actually when we started the podcast. I thought about recording some of my squeaks, but holding them.
Yeah.
So making them longer and then using them just as if someone swears. Yeah. It's just.
You could work that into a bit, couldn't you? Like where you're either doing a story or it's something where there's obviously and you just beep yourself out, and you've already introduced your tics. I think that could be something.
That'll be fun. I'll have to think about that. I'll have to think about it for sure. But Nick, it's great to have you here. I'm glad you're surviving the COVID. We're always worried about everyone, but when you got a guy who says he's not worried about COVID because he's so old, if he dies, he dies. It's good to see you up and at it. Now, Nick, before we get to some of the big stuff here, I do want to talk about the fact that both of us moved here from LA.
Yeah.
And around the same time, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was 5 years ago for me.
It was like 6 for me, I think. A
And
little over 6. Yeah.
But what's weird is I've noticed that it seems like a bunch of us that are not from Iceland moved between like 2014 and 16.
Interesting.
And I'm wondering, like, what was it for you? Why'd you decide, you know what, I've had enough of the sun. Let's go somewhere where it's cold as fuck.
I just fell in love with the place. It was for no other reason, honestly. I just came here. I was like, yeah, I love this. I gotta move here. And
Right.
everything else is just gonna have to work itself out.
Had you been here before? So
Yeah.
you'd been here before you moved here.
Yeah, I came 2 times, and on the 3rd time, I decided, I actually played a gig, and I walked to the sound check, 3-minute walked back, walked to dinner, walked back, walked to the gig. It took a few minutes each time. And then I walked back to my favorite wine bar, and I said this is because in LA, I would have to leave to go to a gig like an hour and a half just
Right.
because of traffic.
Oh, tell me about it.
Do the sound check, wait around for several hours before the show, and then drive right back without hanging out with my friends or drinking or anything, because you got to drive, and
Right.
nobody hangs out after a gig. And I moved here for the lifestyle. That's basically it.
I love how in like Icelanders versus LA, it's like they have something that's so similar, but it's a different reason. It's like in Iceland, you don't arrive on time to a party because no one's going to be there on time.
Right,
You
yeah.
always add an hour because you know it's going to take people at least an hour to get there.
Right.
In LA, you always add an hour because you know you're going to be stuck in traffic for an hour.
Right. Yeah,
Different
a lot
reasons,
of times
yeah.
you may end up there an hour early because there wasn't traffic, but that's the exception. So you have to plan for it.
And it's always so weird because you can never plan that. So
Yeah.
when I lived in LA, I just always took an extra hour out of my day for traveling.
Yeah.
And then like every once in a while, I'd get somewhere early and be like, well, shit, what do I do now? Where do I go? What's around here? Luckily, it's LA.
Yeah.
And if you're in the right area, there is stuff to do. But when you're driving out to like the valley and you're
If
in like
you're in
that
the valley,
weird
there's
part of the
nothing.
valley where there's nothing there.
But you're still like this, Dan. You want to be, if we plan to do something at 11 or something, you want to be there an hour before.
I'm just so used to it.
Yeah,
I'm just
I was like, well, what's the rush? He was like, can we just go there like an hour before? And you're like,
Well, part of the OCD. Part of it is OCD because I want to make sure that everything is ready to go and tested and all of that stuff.
yeah.
But really, I think it actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it really is. I'm just so used to adding an hour that when I don't add it, I feel so weird. It's like suppressing a tick.
Yeah.
Well, like I leave like a half hour before and I'm just like, something's not right. Something's gonna happen. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. This is just the end of my life. All right, great.
Yeah, LA should have its own time zone. It should be an extra hour.
Well, like the daylight savings time. That was just for LA.
Yeah.
And people were just like, you know what? That's actually a good marketing trick. Let's just go ahead and use that for everywhere. And LA is like, damn it, that was our thing.
Yeah, I used to work with a musician who was always showing up late, so we just told him every gig, we just told him an hour earlier. The gig's not at 8, it's at 7.
Well, the other thing about gigs, though, is sometimes you do have to arrive early because it depends on how the venue is set up.
Yep.
Like I saw a meme the other day, and it just brought back so many painful memories. It was like a really, really steep staircase, and like one of those giant like half stack amps. And I was like a cabinet, and I was just, and it basically said if 2020 was a loading gig. I was just like, oh, damn it.
I'm one of these rare breeds of Icelanders that are actually on time. Yeah, I like if they say, hey, birthday party is at 8, I'm there at 8.
Wow.
And they're just like taking a shower. They're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, you said 8. And I think that's actually my anxiety. I don't want to feel like somebody's waiting for me.
Right.
Even though I know, like, I'm going to be the first one there, and it's going to be awkward, and I have to do the small talk, and I don't like the small talk. And so I've been like practicing for years, trying to be late. I'm like, you can do this. You can be late. But
It's just because your girlfriend told you don't come so early.
That is true. It is a problem. Not for me. But I mean, I enjoy it. But
I think Icelanders leave when the party starts. They leave home when the party starts.
Yeah.
If it's at 8, that's when you leave home.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's gonna okay. 8. Yeah, I'll get ready at 8. Then, you know.
We were walking to somewhere recently. I remember, and well, like we were getting there early, but then like we got off. I think we got off the bus like one stop early,
Yeah.
and we ended up going through like all these back streets. And you're just looking at your phone, and you're just like, I think we're going the right way. And I'm like, Þórhallur, are we going to get there on time? And he's like, well, now we are, because I have no idea where we are.
You're doing GPS on a bus?
No, we were like we got off the bus, and he started using his GPS.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was just
That'd be
like
funny, do it on a bus. Hey, driver. There's more traffic this way. Take this one.
just using what was the app in LA? Waze.
Ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, did you? Yeah, we don't have anything like that in Iceland.
We don't have traffic here in Iceland.
Yeah, we don't have traffic here. There's an app that people use in LA called Waze, and it tells you like all the streets that have like based on traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So it tells you like if there's so much traffic on like the 101, for example, it takes you on the side streets.
Right.
Which is really cool until everyone gets that app and starts taking both.
I know. You know, the best thing I had before all this started happening, there was a book of LA shortcuts, like secret ways, and it worked.
Really?
Yeah, they knew certain streets at certain times, you know, and it was just a little paperback book, but it saved me a lot of time. You know, you get these apps, just like you say, everybody's using them, so they all go the same way.
Yeah, my favorite thing was when someone asked me they're like, Dan, do you mind picking me up at the airport? And I'm like, okay, LAX, I'll plan around at what time? And they're like, well, my flight arrives at 4 a.m. I'm like, I am driving. I'm driving. And they're like, why are you so excited? I'm like, because there's no traffic at 4 a.m.
It's LA as it should be.
like literally from my apartment to the airport was a 20-minute drive. To downtown Hollywood to LAX is a 20-minute drive if there's no traffic.
Right.
But when there's traffic, it's like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah.
So like I would drive at 4 a.m, get there in 20 minutes, and I'd be on time, and they'd be like, how did you do that? And I'm like, oh, the drive back is even more fun. But in LA though, so you moved to Iceland. Did you actually have a plan here? Because you were doing voiceover in LA and you were doing music. You have performed music here in Iceland.
Yeah.
But you kind of switched over to comedy.
Yeah. I've done improv comedy for ages, but I didn't do stand up till I came here, and I kind of fell in love with it. And plus, we have this lovely little community of people, and so and when I used to play stand-up clubs, doing improv stand-up in LA, we never had that. You know, people would just come and go, do the gig, leave, you know.
Yeah.
Probably, I've always guessed, do you think it's the competition?
I don't know what
so
it
competitive that everyone's always trying to be in everywhere at once, and they just, like, they don't stick around with each other because they want to be the best?
I don't know. I didn't pick that up so much. I think I don't know. Honestly, it could be that thing where you can't sit around and have a couple drinks and then drive.
I mean, there also are so many comedians out there. It's just the sheer numbers of them.
Yeah.
That it's. I mean, because like here, it's almost like we have like 2 or 3 groups.
Yeah.
It's basically all the comedians are friends, but then you've got like the groups of comedians that hang together most.
Yeah.
And then, whereas in LA, like I remember I performed in Chicago, and it was like the open mic comedians were hanging out together, but not all of them. I mean, there were like stragglers that came in, and it was just it kind of, there was like an energy in the room where it was like, oh, that guy's here, and then it was like, oh, that guy, he's not going to stay. It was like 4 or 5 comedians that were like really in this group together, and then just a ton of comedians just coming and going.
I like at the Comedy Store, there was a group of kind of regulars at that time, and you saw a lot of the same people every night, and everybody was very friendly. It just wasn't a thing to hang out. I mean, there was a green room and everything, and people just come and, oh, hi, how you doing? You do your thing and you leave. And I didn't really question it at the time because I'd never played comedy clubs. I just thought, this is the way it is. And here, I don't know, maybe because it's so small, and you know, I don't know. But I prefer this a lot better.
Was there a reason though that you like specifically that, like, had you always wanted to try stand up and then just never thought to try it until you got here?
No, I didn't. I was an improv snob. I didn't really care for stand up. I never watched it. No, I didn't. I mean, I loved Richard Pryor and George Carlin just as a fan because I just thought they were brilliant. And you know, when I was in Foghat, we all just loved Richard Pryor and Monty Python. We just listened to him.
Yeah.
I just realized, I think this is the first interview he's done where the introduction did not involve Foghat.
Oh, well, forget about Foghat.
Yeah, we're changing the title of this to Slow Ride.
But my influences were much more things like The Goon Show and Python and Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. Richard Pryor and a lot of African American humor, because I grew up in mostly a black neighborhood, and that's where it came from. And stand up, like when I was playing those clubs and I'd watch other people stand up, and I'm going out and doing improv stand up, and they're doing the same thing every night. It's so boring. But I just didn't get it. And then when I started doing it here, I realized, wait, I can write anything I want.
Right.
I'm not locked into a certain style of writing, which I thought I'd have to be. I thought I'd have to write, one-liners and blah, 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 blah. And I just had no really idea what you could do in stand-up, the freedom you have.
Yeah.
And here I had the latitude to do that, to try and experiment and stuff. And I still work in some improv and stuff. I do like a lot of the stuff I used to do at the Comedy Store, like with just, making up songs and styles and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, for some reason it all just kind of clicked here, and because I never really thought I would do that. I should have, looking back. If I I'm at the comedy. I didn't even realize how cool I was to be at the Comedy Store. It was just a place.
Really?
Yeah, it was a club, and I had an improv group upstairs, and then Mitch, you do it to me.
Have you noticed everyone that's performed at the Comedy Store has their own Mitzi Shore impression?
Yeah, well, she did talk like that. But yeah, if I had thought, oh wow, this is cool, I should start writing some material and blah blah blah. Because as it was, I got my first commercial agent, my first theatrical agent. I got like gigs from playing there, like TV gigs, and it was a great thing. But I was so focused on improv. To me, that was my life, So I just I didn't really pay attention to the other thing.
Well, I think it's also like Þórhallur and I, we've talked about this in the podcast before. But one of the things that's so fun about Iceland as well, and I think it's one of the reasons why, everyone has that thought of like, oh man, if I only started earlier or whatever. But I'm so grateful that I started in Iceland because of the fact that stand-up has always been in Iceland, but it's still so new in a sense to have opportunities.
Yeah.
Because like Þórhallur has talked about the fact that like when he started, it was basically you'd book a gig and that was your practice.
Right.
Because there was nowhere to practice.
Yeah, no open mics or anything. Yeah.
Whereas here, having the comedy club now and having those nights where we can just have open mics and just try something new. Yeah. Like, I remember actually the first time I saw you on stage performing musical comedy.
Right.
I actually remembered like one of my biggest, like largest influences when I was a child was the Smothers Brothers.
Oh yeah.
And the Smothers, for those of you who don't know, look them up. They were legends. But they it was a brother duo, and they had this sidekick thing where like they complimented each other's comedy. One of them played guitar, one played the upright bass, and they had all these jokes that worked together. And I remembered the first time I saw you playing guitar, I just started remembering all those Smothers Brothers bits, and I was just like, oh man, like one day, like maybe Nick and I could try something like this.
We should do that.
It's just one of the because this. Of all the places to just try something out, we could try anything.
Yeah,
and worst case scenario, it doesn't work. We go, you know what? It was worth a try.
Yeah, it's true. Especially when we were at Gökeren, because that was an open mic technically.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt like I could just do anything, and it's probably going to at least go okay, and maybe it'll kill, and maybe it won't, or whatever. And now that we're at the Cellar, it's a little more kind of professional in a way. It's like you feel like you always have to kill it.
Right.
So I'm a little less experimental. I'm trying to break past that.
You didn't always say that. You used to describe the Secret Cellar as Deadwood.
Well, it is too. I meant that in a whole different way. I meant that it's because it's rough and tumble.
Right.
The night Bill Burr came by, there was this, fighting out in the street. Some guy tried to rush the stage to Bill Burr, and they get dragged out and beat him to the sidewalk. But just a lot of rough stuff goes on there. It's wild and woolly. And the first time I played a club in LA after being here for a while, I was amazed. The audience was so polite, and you just like touch them and they laugh because they paid to come in.
Right.
Here it's mostly free. For a while we were doing paid. We'll probably do it again. But
absolutely.
But when people just coming off the street and they're drunk or they're going to do karaoke afterwards, it can be a rough crowd.
Oh yeah,
that's what I meant about Deadwood. It's just people thrown out the door onto the streets. And it's good practice. I felt like I'd been working in a really good gym when I went to Flappers.
Right.
The first time I played Flapper, it was like, oh my God, this is so civilized. They're so appreciative.
Nobody been thrown out.
They want to listen to me because here you got to really win them over.
Well,
work harder.
Thórhallur's probably sitting back here going, I mean, that's just what we're used to here in Iceland.
I know.
I mean, at the Secret Cellar, like the audience are even more polite than if you're doing corporate gigs sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because they sometimes you're just like, yeah, I feel like I'm bothering them. They're like, what's this? Why is some idiot on the stage now?
You're right. Yeah, I've never been like heckled or anything, but sometimes they just tune you out.
Yeah, they tune you out, and they are just focused on drinking and not listening to some guy blabber. So.
Yeah.
Þórhallur and I once did a corporate together. And I remember like the group was so excited for comedy. I mean, we looked in the crowd and we're getting like kind of like. I mean, he's just used to the corporate scene here, so he was like, "Dan, don't expect too much." And it was the first one that I did with you, and then we were standing there, and like the crowd, like the company, like everyone in the company was getting all excited for comedy, and then I go on stage, and it was just like everyone went from being excited to being so tired from drinking because they'd been drinking all day. And they were at the Blue Lagoon in the start of the day. And then they went to this place to listen to a couple of guys who we weren't drunk. So we weren't having as much fun as they were. And they just get on there. And like now I think, man, if only I could do that show now, like knowing how the crowd was, but I didn't because they didn't seem that bad until I stood on stage and look out and people are just like,
it's a totally different energy level and everything. So it's
I did a big wedding once. The family was from Kosovo, and most of them barely. They were speaking in Russian or with Kosovo, whatever you call that language. Very strange language, and they were just like, huh? What?
What's going on?
What was that? Ha!
The greatest Icelandic word ever is ha. Like if you don't hear something like most people, in America or England or wherever, they might be like, what was that? But they just go ha. Ha.
Yeah, there's no upward inflection. So yeah.
I describe it like a German laughing at a joke. Ha.
Huh?
Yeah, and we also say in America we use ha to mean, oh yeah, I get you. Ha, okay.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that causes confusion.
But it's so aggressive here. It's not like they're just like, huh?
Yeah.
It's ha.
It almost like you failed me. Like I'm judging you right now. You failed me, huh? You really said that?
Yeah, I was doing a gig out in Muscle Spire one time, and they just weren't getting it. I wasn't getting to them because they were kind of older, probably not as fluent in English, just the kind of crowds we get down here. And my stuff's very verbose and verbal. And I wasn't getting it, so I figured, okay, I'll do some improv. So I started asking for suggestions. Okay, what's a job you really hate? Ha! Whatever I'd ask them. Ha! the whole concept of asking them something just wasn't making sense.
No. I thought you were going to say that it was like, what's a job you hate? Ha! And you were just like, I hate that job too. We can roll with this.
Yeah.
You've performed in not like you were talking about Flappers, you were talking about the Comedy Store, and you were talking about the Secret Cellar. What would you say is your like ideal age range to perform to, or does it really just depend on the crowd?
I think it depends on the crowd. For me, if I had to choose, I would say a younger age range.
Okay.
Sort of late teens to mid 30s. Here in Iceland, the older people get, the less they're going to get the idioms of certain English stuff.
Yeah,
and again,
right.
my stuff's kind of verbal oriented, so sometimes I can lose people if they're older and they don't speak really good English, and that's on me. I should be doing comedy in Icelandic. It's never going to happen because I suck with languages.
There's always an excuse with us Americans when we come to Iceland. It's just like, why haven't you learned the language yet? I'm trying. But I tried 4 years ago. I tried. It was very tough. I'm still trying. Not really, but I'll get to it.
You can start with, huh?
Yeah, start with I got. You got to find out a Secret Cellar. I got that.
Well, you and I have joked about. We've had like the same joke of like if you really want to like get Icelanders to know you're at least trying.
Yeah.
It's Yao or Hérna.
Yeah.
There's Nuna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's Yaya. I mean, there's like a few of the fillers that just like if you just learn those and throw them in every once in a while, and of course there's the classic. Just breathing in.
Yeah, farthúttur helviti. Helviti Sutland.
Oh yeah, helviti Sutland. I mean that's very important.
Very important.
Which that for the people listening, it's basically fucking foreigner.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is. And we've just come to own it as our own word.
Yeah.
Like I almost
it's like
feel
the N word, black people own that now. And they, so we are proud Helviti Sutland niggas. What up, Helviti Sutland?
We just own it. Like
what up, HU?
I feel like we use it more than Icelanders at this point.
Oh yeah.
Like, we're just like, hey, don't mind me, just to Helviti Sutland over here.
Yeah, I was talking to Ariel about something. I said that. He said, we don't say that anymore. No, not fucking for it. We don't say that anymore, man. No. It's not a thing.
Yeah, because we owned it. We stole it.
We own it. Yeah, right. You don't get to use it. It's more. You can't say the H word. For
it. Exactly. But you you did you still do voice acting, but you did that before you got into comedy. Like you've been doing that for a while.
I did it for a year in Atlanta. I started doing it at the same time I started doing improv. And then I moved to LA and I kept doing improv and voice. It kind of parallel, really.
This is one of the hardest interviews I've ever done because it's literally like, what do I pick to talk about? He's done so much. But I mean, we've had so many talks about voice acting because it's a love of both of ours.
Yeah.
And I will always hate you for actually getting to do it as a career. But to be fair, I never tried. And part of that is I just imagine well, I know it doesn't work like this, but in my head I always picture me going in for like a voice audition and them just being like, all right, so what are you here for? And I'm just like, well, I'm here for voice acting. And they go, we're not interested. Sorry. How did you get into voice acting?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's a long story, but the short version is I fell off a cliff. No, I was rock climbing. I soloed something I shouldn't have, and I fell off a cliff, screwed up my ankle, was in and out of the hospital for a year, lost my record contract, lost my publishing deal.
Jeez.
I was just out of commission, and I had a friend who did voiceover, and I thought, well, I've been doing voice all my life. Let me try that, and miracle of miracle, I started getting gigs. I made a tape and sent it around and started getting gigs in Atlanta. And that led to my agents wanting to send me out for on camera. And I said, well, I can't do that. I took an acting class once. I suck.
Right.
Just try it. And it worked out okay. But by doing acting, I realized one of the big problems is you tense up. Like when you see your close-up time, you tense up. So I thought, I have to do something way harder than this so that this seems easy. How about that improv comedy thing I saw people? So I started doing that, and little did I know I'd fall in love with it. Wow. So
and that's a start for so many careers in entertainment.
Yeah.
It's suggested with pretty much everything. I mean, you've got like people even doing it for, like debate stuff, but like, for voice acting, comedy, anything that involves thinking on your feet. I mean, you start with improv.
It's great.
Which I did not do.
But it's good. That was really my way into acting because starting out with the whole method thing didn't work for me. Because I was more into just sort of character acting.
Right.
And they're more focused on, we have to dig into your psyche and find your hidden emotional well springs of angst. And it just, at that time, it didn't work. I mean, I consider myself now kind of a method actor because I do all of that. I do try to get into the character and all of that. Yeah. But at the time, improv was a much better introduction to me.
Right.
And, and it's also very, very useful in acting, whether you're doing comedy or not, because it teaches you how to be in a moment, which is what I act and react, reacting in the moment. So.
And always saying no to everything.
Say no. Get out of my face with that.
Did you guys see the sketch with Ricky Gervais and Liam Neeson? Neeson wanted to become a comedian. He's like, I'm a funny guy. They were like, yeah sure, Liam Neeson. And they were like, let's try improv. And they were like, okay, you're a shop owner, Liam. And he comes in, knocks, and Liam was like, it's closed. They're like, yeah, well, that just kind of ended there.
But you brought up like that you like started off basically, just thinking about character voices, and like the thing about voice acting that a lot of people just don't think about is because everyone, when they think like, okay, I'm going to send in a demo, I'm going to send in a demo reel, and they're always thinking, okay, I can do this impression, I can do that impression, I'm really good at a voice when I use this effect on it, and that's always, those are the first things that it's like you're told, do not send those in, because like, let's face it, in voice acting, they can get like 1,000 people that can do a Donald Duck impression. Why are they going to want everyone to send in their Donald Duck impression?
Hard.
He is hard. Well, yeah.
You never know when the other one's going to get fired or die.
Fair enough. Fair point. But no, I know that like in voice acting, they always like they're more interested. It's almost like they're almost more interested just simply in how you act the voice than the actual range of your voice, because there's a lot of people that get voice acting gigs just doing their own voice, but the way they act with that voice is unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah, the acting is primary. When I first came to LA, I sent that tape I made around, and the first agent that contacted me was Don Pitson Association, which was a pretty big agency at the time. And they said, well, I got your tape, all those characters and stuff are fun, but you got a really nice, natural voice. I think if you forget about the characters and just do your voice, you could have a good career. And I said, yeah, okay. But then about a week later, Cunningham Escott DePini called, another really good agent, and they said, we love your tape. We love all those characters. We love all your dialects and stuff. Okay, I'm going with you. Because, the reason I got into it is it's fun, And if you're not having fun, just doing one voice and doing commercials primarily, it didn't appeal to me so much. But you're right. It is the best voice actors I know. They can just take the most ridiculous character and make it believable and make it emotional, and and there are some that don't have a huge range, but still act well.
Well, it's interesting you brought up the idea of you were like, this just seems like something I could have fun doing, because like that's a huge problem for every and this is every career. This isn't just like comedy or voice acting, but I was thinking with comedy, a lot of comedians at some point in their career go through that aspect of, is this still fun? Well, because I was talking to a comedian a few years ago, and he was saying that he kind of got to the point where he knew before he did a show, when he was writing material, he knew it was going to work, just because he got so used to how his punchlines worked and how his audiences worked, that he just started like just knowing that material would work. Right. And so it stopped being as fun for him, because part of the fun is not knowing if something's going to work or not and having to test it out. Yeah. So, and that it is something that because every once in a while, like I noticed that some comedians will do a joke that doesn't work, but they consistently do it because they love it. you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not necessarily the best thing to always put in a joke that is not going to work.
Not after 3 or 4 times.
But it is important to always find that aspect that keeps it fun.
Yeah. Well, with voiceover, it stopped getting fun when, at first was you would go in and you would read for the client, for the people who are actually going to hire you. You go in there and perform for them. And they know what they want. And if they want to give you an adjustment, they'll give it. And you got a much better shot at getting it. Then it was you go into your agent's office and you read with a reader. And that kind of, they're not hiring you, but they have a good idea of what's your best take. So that was okay. And you get to hang out in the lobby with all your friends. Right. Then it became, everybody's got to record at home. And that's where it became not fun for me. If I'm going to be sitting at home, I'd rather be working on a song if I got to be sitting at home by myself.
That's fair, yeah.
Than trying to do, I want somebody to tell me, okay, that's it, move on,
Yeah, that's a problem with the digital age, because, as things move into the digital world, the nice thing is you can still do voice acting all the way from Iceland. Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the things I've hated about the Zoom gigs for comedy is that if I'm getting a gig and it's just me, then I'm like, all right, guess I'll go to the studio by myself and just stand there. No one in front of me other than a screen.
Yeah, I got a call.
It takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, I got a call the other day to do one, and it was like, well, we could either do it at your place or we could do it at Sirland. And it was like, yeah, I got to log the takes. I got to blah, blah, blah. No, I'm going to Sirland. I don't mind taking a cab and the cab back. And, it's just much better.
Yeah. Well, and now to I guess, because we're doing like kind of a backwards in time motion for your career here. Right. So I guess we'll go to music now. You did play for Foghat, and you did a lot of production work for Foghat as well. Mm-hmm. How did that come about?
Oh, well, I was working as an assistant engineer at Bearsville Studios. Bearsville Studios owned by Albert Grossman, a notorious manager of Bob Dylan and Janis Joplin and Richie Havens, Peter Paul Mary, a lot of those guys. He was just a big guy in his 60s. And in the 70s, he was still active, and he had a studio, and I got a gig there through my ex-band's manager who was working for Albert. A long, convoluted story. Anyway, I ended up there. I'm just sort of helping out on stuff, and my ex-manager, Paul Fishkin, was running Albert's record company, and they'd signed this band, which was originally called Brandywine.
Really?
Terrible name.
No, that was the original name.
Yeah, that was the original name until Dave was playing Scrabble with his brother, and his brother cheated. Oh, so hat you're wearing a fog, innit? A fog hat. Yeah, right. Snort.
And, the greatest way to come up with a band name. I cheated, but it was a great word.
It was a great word. Yeah, so they brought they weren't happy with some of the mixes on their first album. They brought them to me, and I remixed them, and they were happy with that. And then a couple albums later, they wanted me to produce, and I did, and that worked out well. And then we just kind of kept going from there. And then they had a problem with their bass player, and they parted ways. And they asked me.
He sucked at Scrabble.
Yeah, he sucked at no Scrabble. We're not going to get any more names from him. And they asked me, well, can you play bass? I lied, yes. Figured I'd play guitar. How hard could it be? Gave myself tendonitis learning how to do it.
Right.
And so I told him I'd join him for a year because I'd already stopped playing that kind of music. I was like in jazz mode kind of at that point.
Right.
Briefly. In fact, the night they called, I was working on an Eric Dolphy solo and sort of atonal jazz kind of thing. And so I said I'd join him for a year. And we spent most of that year on the road. It stopped being fun after about 6 weeks. Yeah, you're playing the same songs every night in a big arena where you can't see anybody. There's no interaction. No. So it just wasn't my cup of tea. But, but the guys were great. It was fun hanging out with the guys. And we did make some good records.
And this is always a question I feel like pops into everyone's mind at some point when they're doing talk about this stuff. Do you still stay in touch with them?
Well, there's only one left alive, honestly.
That would make it tough to stay in touch with them.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I do. I do stay in touch. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, and you, if I recall correctly, you have, because you've released a lot of your own music, or you've written a lot of music for various things. If I'm not mistaken, you released a solo album at one point.
2 of them actually.
2 of them.
Yeah,
I'm a good interviewer.
Yeah,
forgot one.
One with Warner Brothers and one with Motown. I saw you got a Motown record. That's my old label there. I was the only white guy in Motown.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I actually almost got a gig through a guy that used to work for Motown. Was his name Mickey Stevenson?
Don't know.
He was the head of the AR department. And it started, and this is literally why after all these years, it is so hard for me to quit smoking as an entertainer, because I was in LA. I'd just seen my friend perform with her band.
Yeah.
And I was outside having a cigarette, and this woman comes up to me and she's just like, "Hey, my father was wondering if you could give him a cigarette." And I was just like, "Yeah, of course, why not?" And I gave him a cigarette, and then he comes over and he starts talking to me. I had no idea who he was. I didn't know that he worked for Motown or any of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then he asked me, he's like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm out here for guitar. I'm playing music and everything." And I'll never forget, like, whoa, he gave me one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten in my life, which was at one point he said, "How good are you?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm pretty good." And he cuts me off and he goes, "No, you're the best player in the fucking world." and I was so taken back by this because it's just this guy just like telling me off for not being confident. And he's just like,
good point. Yeah.
But he said, "No, the next time someone asks you, how good are you? You say you are the best in the game because otherwise they're going to go with the next guy. They're not even going to think about you."
Yeah.
And then, but then he said to me, he was like, "I like you. So I'm going to give you my card. Let me know if you want to maybe, come over to the studio and, try some stuff out."
Yeah.
But I hadn't been in LA for very long, so I didn't believe him. Even though I've got his card literally right in front of me.
Oh my God.
I didn't believe him.
Man.
So yeah, so I was just like, he's lying. And then I found I was like, it was like 6 months later, I was watching a documentary about Motown, and I was just like, motherfucker.
Oh man.
And I tried contacting him, but at that point he had forgotten who I was.
I did something kind of like that when I first got to LA. I was looking for a theatrical agent. Before I started at the store, and this agent Bo Shoot, who turned out to be a very good agent. I met her at a party and I gave her my voiceover tape, and she calls me the next day and said, "I want to sign you as an actor just based on your voice tape, just because of the talent there. I like the talent, I like the persona, I like everything." And I said, "Well, maybe you should come and see." Oh, actually, yeah, my group was playing at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room. "Why don't you come see me do my thing? Get really an idea."
Yeah.
Why did I do that?
Like, you had a sure thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. It's like, you're signing me based on a voice tape. That seems weird. Come and see me,
And you never got it.
No, I didn't, because she came and we had a terrible show. I was fighting with one of the guys. Yeah, and she just kind of lost interest. And then I got another agent who was great. But I just, to this day, I can't imagine really why I did that.
I love how it's like there's like a special LA hustle, where like it's almost like no matter how big you get, there's like the guys that are doing like stage productions and like theater shows and stuff. They're always promoting their stuff to people. Yeah. And I remember I interviewed years ago an actor that I really liked. And like I was talking to him, and then at the end of the interview, he goes, "Yeah, so you guys are in LA, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I'm actually doing this improv show down at the I think it was the IO Theater."
All right.
And he was just like, "Yeah, you come on over." And then he never showed up. And he didn't show up and I think it was because he got an audition for a part, and so he had to get someone to cover for him.
Yeah.
But we watched the whole show, and I was just like, "Where is he?" I was all excited. And then he calls, and then he contacts me, and he goes, "Hey, I'm so sorry about that, but I do have another show if you want to go to that one." And I'm just thinking, no, already saw the show. It was fun, nice, cool.
Yeah.
Fool me once, man.
Fool me once, shame on you. George W. Bush came up with that, right? All right, we're not going political. Every once in a while, we throw in the little. My voices have politics, but actually, to kind of go into, because we've done kind of the you're gonna hate me for this. I'm so sorry.
I already hate you. Don't worry about it.
All right, you know what? This has been a fun interview.
Yeah.
No, we've done the ups. Now let's go to the downs. So you are bipolar.
Yes.
It was the worst bipolar joke I know. I almost feel really bad for doing that.
Yeah.
But just because it's like
You always have to have one Dan joke.
it's worse than a Dan joke. It's worse than a Dan joke. But you were saying that you have bipolar 2. How is that? How does that compare to bipolar 1?
Well, you don't get these extreme manias.
Okay.
You're mostly depressed, and you kind of go between depressed and normal, or slightly above normal, like hypomanic.
Right.
I've had like nothing. I haven't had any like extreme mania. Like these extreme. Where you decide you're going to fly to Bhutan and meet the king or something.
This sounds like you have experience with that story.
I hear stories. No, I know a lot about the illness because once I was diagnosed, I just started reading everything about it.
Yeah.
And I had a really great shrink, and I learned about it from that. But yeah, bipolar. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's basically the idea. Is that and it's more depressed with little stretches of normal, or a little or better than normal.
Yeah.
You're a little bit hype and you're a little bit over optimistic and you're a
Right.
little bit enthusiastic and,
Yeah.
and you're full of energy and you start all these projects and then, 2 months later you're in the toilet again and you don't finish them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you mentioned hypomania. I mean, hypomania can still be pretty damn terrifying because of the fact that, I mean, when you're hypomanic, you can't just shut it off.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, all right, I'm gonna stop being this energetic and over the top. You just have to wait it out, or if you have medication that helps with it, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's mostly from what I've heard, it's you just have to wait it out.
Yeah, and it wasn't even really that problematic to me, I would have been probably fine being hypomanic all the time. But I mean, compared to the depression, because I had horrible depressions. I mean, it was just in the toilet. And before I got diagnosed, I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me myself. I stopped doing everything in LA and moved to a little cabin out in the backcountry of San Diego. And I kept this chart because I was like, what's going on with me? And I would chart all these mood swings.
Right.
And I was going to a naturopathic doctor at the time who was trying to treat, people thought I had chronic fatigue. I had this and I had that. And he was telling me, you're not manic depressive. There's no such thing as that, blah, 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 and all this bullshit. But I charted it anyway. And I actually had a picture of bipolar 2 on these charts that I made. And when I finally got diagnosed, okay. I showed my doc the chart. He said, yeah. Very accurate.
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
Huh?
How old were you when you were diagnosed?
Early 40s sometime. Yeah. It was late in life. I mean, I'd been kind of mildly bipolar at first and then sort of long-term depressive for a while. I mean, I'd just been it just got more extreme when I got in my 40s and I moved to LA and it just got out of hand. It got to where I couldn't function.
Yeah, well, actually, we got so every once in a while we get questions emailed to us from fans of the show. That they want us to maybe ask in the show, and there was one that we just got that actually fits with this. Is the topic of before you're diagnosed, how did you cope? I mean, like, how did you cope with not knowing what was going on, and just not having a name to put with it?
I just thought it was me, Yeah. I just thought that's my personality, that's my character, that's how I am. And I was very judgmental of myself. I just felt like shit. I felt like I'm a guy that starts things and can't finish them. And when you're depressed, you kind of, you do tend to judge yourself a lot because you just can't see anything good in anything, including yourself. And I just had and part of the, I think bipolar, and a lot of people agree, is primarily treated with medication, but you need talk therapy. And the main reason you need it is to understand what happened. Right. Why did you feel that way all your life? It wasn't your fault. You're not really a loser or a flake or, any of that. You didn't cause that to happen. And you have to understand that. In order to really get better.
And did your obviously, you'll get new opinions once you get a name to it. Once you're officially diagnosed. How exactly did that change your opinion on all of this when you actually had a name to put along with it?
Well, interesting question. Before I was diagnosed, when I was still trying to be treated for chronic fatigue, a doctor put me on Prozac, like a GP.
Okay, yeah.
He didn't know what he was doing. He put me on Prozac, which you don't just give a bipolar antidepressants because that will make you manic. And it eventually kind of did. At first, my thought was, this is what it's like to feel normal. Because, I remember the first time the Prozac started to work, I was at the Fox commissary sitting around with people from the Critic, and we were just having a conversation. And all of a sudden, it's like, I'm sitting in public with people talking, and I don't feel like hiding under the table. This is amazing. But then it started to ramp up more. At the same time, I was doing a Shakespeare festival in Bakersfield, of all places, asshole of California. And I'm out there, and we're in this outdoor arena, and we're rehearsing. And at one point, I feel like oh my God, this is going to be the greatest production ever. I'm going to be the next Olivier here in Bakersfield. And it was this feeling of incredible power and stuff like that. And I didn't know what was happening to me. I really didn't, because this doctor didn't diagnose me. He just threw an antidepressant at me, because a lot of GPs were throwing antidepressants at people. Prozac was the thing then.
Right.
And, they give it to bipolars would go manic. They give it to a lot of people that shouldn't have been taking it, and they'd have horrible withdrawals when they tried to get off it. Because there'd been this book written called Listening to Prozac. It was a bestseller. And it made it seem like Prozac was a wonder drug for everybody.
Right.
And it kind of was at first. It would make you feel real good, but if you had any underlying problems, it could exacerbate them. And they're not easy to get off. There are side effects getting off. It can be terrible withdrawal. And I got off it because it was just, I was starting to go up and down and all over the place. I got off it. And when I did, I ended up worse than when I started.
Okay.
Then I went through 2 years of trying to cure myself with non-pharmaceutical methods, because I had a very bad impression of pharmaceuticals at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And that didn't work. And finally, I just, actually, it's funny. I had an audition. I went into the audition, and it was just horrible. I was so depressed, and it was so bad. And it was for a show called The Daily Show. They were auditioning hosts.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And I'm walking in, I remember, Daily Show? What kind of stupid name is that for a show? What do you mean The Daily Show? It happens every day. Whoa, great name. And I came out, and I went to my best friend, D. Marcus, and I said, you know what? Do you know anybody who can help me? Because I'm about to end it. I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do. I'm non-functional. And she turned me onto the doc who diagnosed me. So,
Okay.
God bless her.
Yeah. And it's terrifying in those moments. And also, I mean, the problem with medication, and like I always get really passionate about this topic, because for Tourette syndrome, it's horrifying. I mean, because it's not just that it's so hard to find something that works.
Yeah.
But it's also not uncommon for people with Tourette syndrome to get strange side effects that no one else gets to medication. I mean, are there things like this with bipolar where because of the change in mood or the change in and that stuff, do people who are bipolar tend to get strange side effects?
Yeah. Everybody who tries antidepressants is going to be vulnerable to an unpredictable result. And
so it's just antidepressants. I mean, those are fucking wild.
They are, yeah. And what I tell people always, because the reason I tell them what I tell them is because I've been stable for a long time. I'm having a rough period right now for a number of reasons, but I've been stable for a long time, and it took years to get the right med combination. But I was on a mission. It was like, man, I'm getting out of this, because we tried this med to make it a little better, but it was a problem. And I had this doctor who was just like a bulldog. He said, we're going to get this. Yeah. And I just didn't give up. I see so many people who have bipolar or depression, they give up. They try one med, two meds. They say, oh man, these meds, I hate meds. And they just stay miserable. I kept at it, and we ended up putting together a certain combination of meds that worked and got me to feeling better than I ever had my whole life. Everything.
That's good.
Groovy. Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, you do, if you need medication, and if you're bipolar, you do, unless it's very mild.
Right.
You gotta be relentless in getting something that works.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing that with depression that people don't realize is it's not like, it's not just our thoughts and we're just deciding to feel bad. I mean, like with depression, it can vastly change your thought process. So what happens is you get people that get in like massive depressive episodes, but they don't believe they don't really believe anything that they're thinking. It's just that their brain is telling them to think all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So when they get to those points where they're just like, there's no cure, there's nothing I can do, I'm just going to end it. It's like people get terrified listening to it, but imagine being the person who's having these thoughts that aren't their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm going through that right now. Like I said, I'm not in horrible shape, but I'm not in great shape. And the apartment I'm renting is being sold, and I'm trying to decide, do I want to buy it? And trying to make a big decision when you're in this state, is really rough because nothing feels right.
Right.
You don't. Nothing makes you feel good. I'm in the apartment. I'm looking around the apartment. I don't feel good. Therefore, the apartment is not good. You know what I mean? It's like it affects everything. It's really hard because you can't trust your emotions. You can't trust your thoughts because there's no foundation of you. You know?
Right.
So yeah, it's it really does affect everything. It's not just you feel down. It's like you're biologically your whole system is performing way under where it should. So the things that normally happen in a logical way or in an emotional way or an instinctual way, you can't trust your gut is what I'm trying to say again.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, we are getting close to the end here. Before we go though, because I do not want to forget this. And if you're up for it, I'd love to have you back on at some point. We can talk more about this stuff because, I mean, you're just always welcome. I don't know how else to put it.
He's my you brother.
I'm Þórhallur's you brother.
You know what that is?
Yeah,
What's a
explain
you
to you
brother?
brother.
Yeah. Hey, so both of us, we found out we have this in common. Both when we were really young, we thought our name was you.
Oh, right.
Because everybody else called us you.
Yeah. So how are you doing? You're like, always like you. I was, oh, my name is you. But in Icelandic, it's Þú, but it's you. So we discovered we have that in common. So now we're, hey, you brother.
And you were the boy named Thu.
Yeah.
That was epic. I almost wish I didn't have a game that I wanted to play before we end because that would have been an epic closing line.
Oh, that's Þórhallur's line.
But I do want to play one game before we leave, and that is because it wouldn't be me if I didn't get you to do at least a few voices on this.
Okay.
And I wanted to have fun with it. So I wanted to ask Þórhallur to teach. All right, so if we're gonna have Þórhallur teach Nick 3 either Icelandic words or like a very, very small Icelandic expression, and I want to see if you can say them in a character voice.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, the first that pops into my mind is, of course, just Þetta reddast.
Okay.
I mean, which is, things will work out.
Yeah, well, in Alabama, we say Þetta reddast all the time. Because things can only get better.
Þetta reddast for some of us, maybe not. Þetta reddast, like you say, Þetta reddast kanski. You know, if I should live so long, Þetta reddast.
Þetta reddast. I was in what was it called, CPP Games, and they had a sign in the door saying, Þetta reddast is not a valid design philosophy. Or something like that.
I love that. I love that. Þetta reddast. It's like the laziest cop out of an excuse ever. Yeah. Like it's just like you try so hard and then you just simply can't do something and you're just like, the universe will take care of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes people think of it as almost sort of a kind of Buddha Zen thing, you know, and you can look at it. I have an artist's rendering of Þetta reddast.
Do you?
It was like a piece of cardboard painted blue with Þetta reddast and cut out things. And I have it on my desk right in front of me. And next to it, I have a little plastic statue of the Buddha on a cell phone. So when I'm doing business, I see Þetta reddast and I see Buddha doing business to try to keep me in the right headspace.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, what's number 2?
Okay. So just like
it can literally just be a word. Or
I mean, I guess could you do like in a different way?
Where's our?
That's pretty.
Oh, right, Australian. Huh? No, it's going to sound the same in everyone, unfortunately.
I like how somehow
Except maybe in French you would say ah.
I like how well, and also in the Middle East they'd go M. But I like how you managed to still give it an accent with the Australian accent.
Yeah.
Like somehow we still heard that it was different.
Yeah, what are you rigging, mate? Huh? No, I guess in the South would be, huh? You know, in Philadelphia, huh? They'll say like, hey, you know, I think the hoagies are pretty good down at Ruth Rose's house, huh?
I'm trying to think of how it would be like with like a thick New York accent. You know, if you're talking to someone and you're just like, ah. It would almost be like they'd take the H out and just be like, hey, we're talking, Yeah.
Yeah, to do it the Icelandic way. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of dialectical variations that I could. Oh, what? No.
What are you talking about over here? Huh?
Well, and then the most Icelandic, which I think is the breathe in, saying something different accents, but you do the.
You want me to put a dialect to a band?
No, I mean because we use it while we say sentences.
Oh, why you say sentence?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
There's a challenge.
Yeah. So because we
okay.
like
So breathing in the accents.
Yeah. So somebody tells you something, and you're like,
Yeah. So if you're like in Philly, somebody, how you think Eagles are going to do? Well, I think they're going to do pretty good because they got Joey Taccone there in the quarterback. And do I think they're going to do good? Yeah. You know?
That just that's it. See, this sounds like an Icelander who's going to LA for the first time and experiences the smog.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Now, the Philadelphia way to say ha would be ha, you know?
Oh, I'm trying to no. In the Midwest, it would be ha op, or no, it would be op ha.
Oh, and then, well, of course, Chicago would probably be ha.
There we go.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, now you think about it, there are. Canadian. Eh?
I feel all right. We're one last one, just because I want to see. I just want to hear you do this word. Is Rusin Raskat.
Rusin Raskat.
There you go.
Okay, what dialects you want?
Well, actually, before I have you do that, just so the people listening in who don't know, I'm pointing at my computer like they're watching.
Yeah.
So basically, Rusin Raskat is like a term of endearment that parents call their children when they're like little kids, and it means raise an asshole.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes we just say asshole.
Yeah,
Raskat. Like Raskat, yeah.
Oh, and then there's this song, Father Raskat.
Father Raskat. Oh, you're talking about the song that everyone jokes about that I wrote is, and I would walk by. We got to do that as a sketch. Is me in the studio recording that song, and I would.
Yeah, she got a bunch of songs that you could do too. How did you say it? What was the
phrase
phrase you
said? So it's Rusina Raskat. Rusinu Raskat.
Rusinu Raskat.
Rusinu Raskat. All right, what dialect you wanted?
Well, it sounds like you're going kind of like for like it's almost like a Southern English accent.
Oh right, Rusinu Raskat. Hey, go Northern Rusinu Raskat.
Can you do Irish?
Okay, yeah, like a Dublin or Rusinu Raskat.
I feel like Rusin Raskat could be a Russian word.
Rusin Raskat.
That worked. I was wondering German.
Rusin Raskat. Cliche. Rusin Raskat.
It's a cliche, but hey, it works. It works. Well. Before we get to the end of this, first of all, Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my great pleasure.
And Þórhallur, thanks again for being the co-host.
Yeah.
And to those of you listening, first of all, if you ever have any questions or topics, or you want to be on the podcast, send us an email at info@mvhtshow.com. That's info@mvhtshow.com. I was thinking in my head, this was the first time I did it without a squeak, and then it's just my voice went, nope, fuck you.
Yeah.
But also, if you want to find out more information about Nick, where can they find out more information about you?
Well, IMDb. Yeah, just Google. You know, there's all kinds of crap out there.
The greatest response ever. If you want to know more about Nick Jameson, just use Google.
Yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that, music and acting and other various stuff. Follow me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I haven't been using it. Well, like I said, I haven't been doing it. So I don't really feel like posting pictures of my cat or anything like that.
How is Lila doing?
She's doing great. Doing great. Yeah.
Why did I not talk about his cat the whole time? I'm obsessed with Omen, and I can't talk about his cat once.
Nah, she's great.
Yeah. And Þórhallur, you can find out about Þórhallur at Þórhallur83 on Facebook is Thor Comedian.
Yeah.
Then Instagram, I forget, you're on Twitter. You don't have Twitter. Okay.
Twitter is a place of hatred.
So you get tired of doing this every time. So now I'm trying to do it and I forgot.
Yeah.
So Facebook is Thor Comedian. Instagram and TikTok are Þórhallur83. And for me, you can find me at Dan Zarin Comedy on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And also, if you want to find out more about the show, check out our Facebook at My Voices Have Tourette's, Instagram at My Voices Have Tourette's, and Twitter at MVHT Show. We also have MVHTshow.com. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the such, remember to like and subscribe and follow and all that stuff to our podcast. And if you like the podcast, remember to give us a 5-star review. If you hated us, just give us a 1-star review, blame it on Nick Jameson, and we'll never get him again. It's perfectly fine. But no, seriously, if you don't like the podcast, leave us a 1-star review and let us know why so we can work on it. This episode has been brought to you by Gamesless Studio, where we're recording the Secret Cellar, Iceland's first and only comedy club, and Smouty's Volcano Sauce is the greatest hot sauces I've ever had in my entire life. If you want to support the podcast, you can find us at paypal.me/MVHT show. That's paypal.me/MVHT show. Finally, other than that, thank you so much for listening and check out new episodes every Tuesday.
The hot sauce is not good for the roast.
It's